What is the best part about chess? Well, in my opinion, it is actually playing it. But here's the question. Where do you usually play? Online, right? I assume, mainly. We all gotten so comfortable clicking moves on the screen that we forgot that there is the whole other world of over-the-board chess, so-called classical chess. There is something magical about sitting across from your opponent, another human being, hearing the pieces hit the board, clock ticking, electronically, but still ticking, feeling the nervous energy as you both settle in for what could be a 3-hour battle. That's how long the average duration of the game is in a classical game between two evenly matched players. And that is the chess its purest form, right? You, your opponent, and 64 squares. Now, this past weekend, I decided to dive back into that world at the Queen City of the Prairie Open in Fort Worth, Texas, which is not too far away from me, probably 1 hour drive. 5 rounds, classical time control, and a room full of players who chose to experience classical chess. All right, the result was pretty good for me. 4.5 points out of 5 games. Clear first place and $1,000 payday plus I got another $200 for the mixed doubles prize. And more than money, honestly, it reminded me why over the board chess hits different than any other format of chess, I would say. And don't get me wrong, I love to play online. I'm on a 3,000 rating grind, so I have a lot of fun playing online chess, playing Blitz too. However, yes, it is a different part of the game. All right, now in this video today, I am breaking down the 3 most critical wins that secured this victory. And trust me, it may seem easy, games may seem easy, but it was a little harder than it seemed. That being said, now we're gonna jump here in the games, those 3 games, but I want to take the second and pay thanks to Louis Reed and Alliance Chess Club for organizing this tournament. This was the 8th annual tournament. It is growing every year. This year, I believe, was the most participants, and I hope nothing but the best to the club, to Alliance Chess Club. Big shout out. And Louis Reed, who is doing an amazing job to organize the tournament at a very high level. I believe at the moment #1 in the DFW area. All right, now let's get to the games. First game I want to show you here was against Ellery Zhang. Young kid, local, plays a lot of youth tournaments, and a true fighter. Okay, I'm gonna start with the game 2 here. I start with the king's pawn e4. I'm not an e4 player, just a heads up, but I wanted to give it a try and experiment with it. You will see another game in this tournament of me playing e4. My opponent goes c5, knight f3, so Sicilian defense on the board. Knight f3 and pawn to e6, this so-called French variation of the Sicilian defense. And here I did not play the open Sicilian, which is the main move, would be d4. I played d3 according to Robert Fischer. This would be a good moment probably to give the shout out to my Skool group. That is actually where I reviewed this with a few of my students and the members of the community. It's a completely free to join, and I will include the link in the description. Get some insights, share your own games, attend the group classes that are free, and play the tournaments every Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Central Time, with prizes, with the modest prizes, but I hope to keep growing that tournament in the future. All right, and someday maybe I can even give out the money prizes. All right, nowadays it's memberships, chess, chess.com, and you can also win classes with me, one-on-one classes. All right, now back to the Fischer here. Fischer was the fan of close Sicilian, especially at early stages of his career. So I was inspired seeing his games. Knight to c6, pawn to g3. So it transposes into the King's Indian attack. That is a more popular name for it nowadays. And she plays d6. I think black would have immediately gone d5 here. I'm not sure why d6, as you will see here in a matter of few moves. Black decided to play d5 anyways, so that move could have been made in one go. Black wasted the time there. You gotta be careful, especially with the black, not to waste too much time because you're already one move behind to start with, right? So the c3 here was to prepare d4 to take control of the center. Pawn goes to d5, now e5, expanding in the center here, gaining some space, following it up with d4 to get even more space, secure the pawn on e5. Queen to b6 is a standard way to apply the pressure on d4 here, and at the moment black tries to make it difficult for me to develop my queen side. For example, if I play knight d2, then the d4 pawn is hanging. If I play bishop e3, then the b2 pawn is hanging. So what do? Because I want to go knight f2, knight f1, then bishop f4, h4, g4, h5. Actually, that was exactly what happened in that Fischer game against Oscar Pano, okay, Argentinian Grandmaster, with pawn storm, and ended up with the checkmate on the king side. Now, something similar happened in this game too, so that's why you gotta learn your classics, man. You gotta learn your classics. Number one, it can make your game better. What I mean by that is understanding how good players think and why they make moves of what they do is instructive. You can learn a lot from it. And number two is, aren't you curious? It's just, to me, it's a matter of a curiosity, like of the evolution of the game, what were people thinking, how people were played before us, or maybe not even before us at the current day. Okay, what other good players think and play. So I decided to go rook e2 to secure the b2 pawn and free my bishop to get out. Okay, now after cd here, black is struggling with finding a plan, and as it is a very common occurrence in French positions. Now, this c8 bishop is a problem child of the French defense. It is stuck inside the pawn chain and blocked by its own pieces, right? And then that stops black from occupying the c file here. So my opponent decides to go f6 and open the position up. This is pretty standard in the French defense positions. Knight goes to c3. Now bishop d6 to secure the e5 square and outpost. That would be called an outpost here for my knight. And then e6 pawn would be backwards pawn. Okay, if no other pawns can defend that pawn, that on an open file, that is a backwards pawn. Okay, which is inherently a weakness. Now, my opponent plays bishop d6, and I decided it was time to exploit that weakness immediately here with bishop to h3. After rook defends it on e8, I can play bishop g5. Now include this dark square bishop with the tempo here, and I want to take on f6 and expose king even more. Okay, with some sort of here danger on the g file. I also want to take on f6 right now immediately and then take on d5 because the e8 rook is not going to be defended. And if you play bishop d7, actually that doesn't stop it because then your bishop on d7 is going to be hanging. That's why that bishop on that diagonal comes in handy, right? So the coordination, that's what the true harmony is on the chessboard. Okay, when all the pieces are working together. So queen d8 here to defend the knight, and now queen to d3. So far all my pieces were brought into the game on the ideal places, except one, which was this rook, right? So now I'm trying to get that rook on e1 to join the party and apply the pressure on that weakness. Okay, night before, queen d2 and h6. This was the only moment in the game which I probably played a little carelessly. Here I didn't put enough thought into it because I already felt that I gotta be close to winning here. So I let my focus guards down a little bit and play this bishop f4 move relatively quickly, and didn't think of the consequences that after takes here, black actually has a g5. Okay, and that was a little bit of a scare. I didn't see this until my opponent captured on f4. Now, just to mention here, the best thing to do would probably be taking simply on f6. Simple chess, man. Simple chess for the most of the time is the best. Okay, then bring the rook, apply the pressure, kick the knight away. d5 pawn is still going to be hanging, so black is still in a lot of trouble here. Okay, I had to play rook e3 to defend my knight. That's why rook e3. Okay. So after bishop queen f4 here, my opponent goes g5, and now I'm thinking here, oops, am I losing a piece here? Do I have to sacrifice the knight? And then play 2 pawns for the piece. Now, to be fair, I do have some compensation here, because I can go like rook a2, e1, and then apply the pressure on e6. I already have 2 pawns, and king is somewhat exposed, but I'm down a piece here. Okay, so it's not super straightforward, and as you can see, computer actually likes black just a tiny bit better. Okay, because it sees how to keep that piece. In the game, I actually played queen d2 here, and my opponent had to play g4. I was certain that he was going to play g4, and my idea was to take here, hope that they take my bishop and keep my knight, which probably is going to be decisive, but the critical is to take on f3, take the knight. And when I go rook e5 here to go rook g5, I can play knight h7 to stop. That's what I was thinking, to stop the g5. Apparently there's also a move king f7 to avoid the worst here, avoid the danger. All right, so pawn to e5, I take on c8. Now pawn to e5 was a desperation. My opponent was low on time, probably under like 8 minutes, 7 minutes maybe, something like that. She was worried about the king safety, so decided to play e5. But now this gives me a pawn, just a simple pawn, and the king, your king is very much exposed. So now that is hopeless. So from a practical standpoint, I think weakening your king, but at least getting a material would be a better choice. But after bishop c8 here, e4, I can take on b7. If you take on f3, I can take the rook and then the other rook. So I'm going to be up in exchange of the pawn there probably. So rook b8, now knight takes e4. Black cannot capture both of my pieces at the same time. So I'm going to win another pawn here. And after a series of forced moves here, I was pinned, so I had to step aside with the check here. Then take on f3. And I saw actually the finish from here when I was giving up the d4 pawn. If black had captured the b2 pawn, and voila, it actually worked out perfectly, because my opponent captures on b2, another pawn, bring the rook with the tempo here, attacking the queen. And the trick is, when you take there, I go rook d8. You can't take because I'll take your queen. So you have to move the king up. Then I go check. Then I go another check, include all my pieces into the attack here. If you take with the knight there, I will have 1,000 checks, which will eventually lead to a checkmate here, because your king is completely exposed. So king has to get on the run here, h5, queen f7, and I was very happy that my opponent allowed this aesthetically very pleasing checkmate after king h5. And I would recommend, actually, if you're under 1,000 rated player, stop the video and try to work out what is the forced checkmate. And once you find the forced checkmate, then what is the most pleasing way to deliver the checkmate. If you're above 1,000, I believe you already saw what it is. That is right. We sacrificed the queen. Queen to h5. Chess.com gives it a double exclamation, so the brilliancy move mark here. And after knight captures it, bishop f5 is checkmate. Okay, king is going to be mated in the corner. So I was quite happy with this win in the second round. And then in the third round, I played another young player who actually had beaten me in the 1 hour game. I went crazy in that game. So this was my rematch slash revenge arc. Okay, he's rated around 2000. We start as the king spawn here, knight to f3, knight to c6, and my opponent goes for the bishop b5 Spanish opening. Pawn to a6, bishop retreats back to a4, the main line, because if you take on c6 here, I can take back with the pawn, and then this pawn is not hanging due to queen d4. And on the next move, black will get that pawn back. Okay, on e4. So bishop to a4, pawn to d6. This is not the main move. Knight f6 is the main move here, but it's one of the ways of playing. It's not too uncommon either to defend this pawn early on. And the point is that I'm going to try to get the bishop out on d7 here on the next move. c3 to prepare d4 here, and that's what I do here to avoid this pin and ruining my pawn structure, basically. Knight b d2 to secure the e4 pawn. Now I decided to go b5. Okay, against someone 400 points lower than me, or maybe a little more. I didn't want to allow simplifications here. Okay, now black is totally fine here, but position would have got simplified a little too much for my liking here, although black should be a little better due to the bishop pair in an open position. Okay, but I didn't want to allow simplification, so b5 early on, then bishop 7, castle, rook e1. Now I want to play rook e8 here, but he may have knight g5 to attack my f7 pawn, so a little bit of prophylaxis with h6, then bring the rook, tack the bishop back. So far pretty standard play for the Spanish slash Rui Lopez opening here. Now black tries to expand on the queen side here with knight a5, bishop retreats back, and pawn to c5 to counterattack the center. Pawn to b3. This actually position was still fresh on my mind because I had the game in the exact same position last week's tournament. Okay, my opponent, national master Kevin Wong, they played bishop b2, and then the game continued with b4. I didn't get a great position there because I actually chickened out there, didn't go for this line, which I thought was kind of scary here. For I should probably take on g7 here. This is the computer's first suggestion, but your mind can't help but go into this captures, right? I thought this was very dangerous for black. I do have an exchange here, but look at my king and look at these knights. Okay, this would have been very dangerous for my liking. Okay, so after knight c6 here in that game, I played after b4 d, I simply took back with the pawn. This game was a little different actually. My opponent played d5. Okay, so I retreated my knight back to e7 immediately here, and then c4. Now white has a little more space, but I do not have weaknesses, so my position is very solid here. I bring the knight out to g6, try to get some activity by parking it on f4, and then when you are behind in space, when you lack the space, you want to trade pieces. Okay, so that's what I did here with knight to h5. Okay, I want to trade one of the knights, and after knight takes h5 here, I probably should play some kind of like simple game here, maneuver pieces over, and keep the small advantage, maybe like knight h2 or king h2 probably. Computer suggests actually take on b5 and play a4. That's a little too crazy, but not as crazy as my opponent went on here. Immediately with g4, I was hoping actually he was going to play this, and as you can see, computer says this is a bad move because it is going to allow queen to f6. Now the point of the g4 move is I can't play knight f4 because then white has two defenders of that square, right? But I can play queen f6 first, attack the knight, and when you defend it, because if you take there, then queen f3, and now that was just a trade, and your pawn structure, kingside pawn structure, has been ruined. So that's how we can king way too much. So after king g2, now I can go on f4 actually with the check, and then take back with the pawn. And at the moment, this bishop is not doing much, but in the next two moves, I'm going to bring that bishop in a long diagonal. And what is white doing? Plus, you have exposed your king, and these pawns are going to be target. Okay, g6, h5, and that is exactly what happened in the game here. I played g6 because there was also a discovered check threats, and most importantly here, I think what is tricky is that white is gonna struggle find a constructive plan. Like, what is white doing? First, my opponent tried to go e5 here, but I shut that idea down here in the bud with queen e7 and then bishop e5. So now black is gonna have all the time in the world here to get going, basically. Probably bring the rook to h file and open it up, rook on the b file and open the b file up, maybe go get the rook b2, and white just has to sit and wait, which is a terrible thing to do in general. Okay, on the chessboard. So queen f6 here, and now I'm a full cruise mode. Okay, if I rook takes e5, and my opponent didn't know what to do, so goes a4, but that allows an immediate h5, and then goes even crazier because probably didn't want to weaken the king like that with f3 and allow all this kinds of stuff here. Now g3 is a serious weakness there, and invading there is gonna win some of the pawns. So he took immediately on b5 and allows taking on g4. Now after f3, I would say maybe probably up to 1500 levels here. If you're under 1500 level, now you can pause the video again and see what would be the most forcing way to win it. Okay, win this position. There are probably few ways to win it, even if I simply move back, but we're always looking for forcing moves if we can. Checks, captures, threats, attacks. Okay, threats and attacks. So if you did find it, congratulations. It is bishop to h3. How do I give this a double exclamation mark? I think that is a brilliant move. The idea is that if you take it, I can simply go rook g5 and then queen h8 is unavoidable mate. Okay, so you're getting ladder mated. So he refuses the sacrifice here, moves the king back. Now I bring the rook on h5, threatening all kinds of discover check. And oh yeah, the important detail here is king cannot run away on the other side because of queen h4 check. Okay, it's a very important detail. So he has to go to h1, rook to h5, or rook to h2, and you can pause the clock, the video again, and see what would be the forcing win here. And good job if you actually did it. And yes, it is another forcing move here. I just want to give this a double exclamation mark because I think this is also a brilliancy. Here king has to take, then I check first to bring the queen on the g file, then I take on h2, and after king takes h2, now quiet move, a very satisfying king g7, bringing the other rook okay, in the game, which is gonna decide the game, because after queen c3 check, pawn to f6, white runs out of checks, and on the next move it is a checkmate. So definitely boosted my mood this game, winning in this fashion. So that was 3 out of 3. And going into Sunday, I was with white against second seed Brian Tineo. Okay, a good player. I've actually played him before once, and we drew that game. I believe it was in the Texas State Championship. And in this game, I was also expecting a fight, but as you'll see, my opponent made it easy for me. Now, I was not sure actually what to play: d4, e4, knight f3, c4. I was considering all of those, but in the last moment I decided to get into e4 again, and I was very pleasantly surprised when my opponent decided to play knight f6, Alekhine's defense, and not the Sicilian. I believe Sicilian defense is what he thought I was prepared against. So it kind of worked out. For me, I was not prepared. Actually, I was just gonna freestyle it on the board. So knight to f6, pawn goes to e5. Now I poke the knight goes to d5, and I'm not saying that Alekhine's defense is terrible and it loses on the spot and white is winning or anything like that. But I was happy to get the space here at basically no risk, no cost, right? So pawn to d4, he plays d6 here. I continue with the knight f3. c4 is another main line where you kick the knight away and then play f4, but it's a little too sharp for my liking here, something like this. So I played simple and nice knight to f3. And another very pleasant surprise to me, my opponent plays e6. I thought this move was very passive because it just blocks the bishop inside the pawn chain here. So I don't quite get the gist of e6 move. If you want to play e6, you might as well just bring the bishop out on g4 and then play e6. So at least now your bishop is outside of that pawn chain and is not stuck. Okay, this is actually one of the main lines probably with, after bishop g4, or black can also choose to fianchetto the bishop and keep this diagonal open for the bishop. Okay, with g6, and this actually leads to some fun lines here. You can go like knight g5 and then queen f3 and knight e4, sacrifice the pawn, bishop b4, and it can lead to a lot of fun stuff. Okay, so that was what I was expecting more likely here from my opponent if they try to surprise you with the Alekhine's defense. But e6 I was very happy to see. Now it felt like white is gonna have all the space to double up the way they would like. Okay, bishop d3, bishop c4, or even a move that I decided to come up with here, knight bd2. And according to the computer, this is actually a novelty. Okay, in the database there are no games with knight bd2. So can we call this the Zura variation? But I guess not a lot of people will play e6, so it's gonna get out of fashion real quick. The idea is basically I want to put the knight on e4 before I develop my bishop on d3. And the point is, if I do bishop d3 and castle first, then there might be some kind of knight f4 making my bishop uncomfortable. Okay, so I wanted to bring the knight into the best possible square first, which would be e4, and then develop my bishop. Okay, and that's kind of what happened in the game here. And I really like this other move after short castle. Okay, so as I said, I want to go get my bishop out on d3 on this diagonal, right? But black can play knight b4 to make my d3 bishop uncomfortable. So what do? Do I play c3? But then he plays b6. If I play bishop d3, there might be some bishop a6, forcing me to trade it. So for that reason, I came up with this simple but a very nice move. I was very happy with this move because now if you go b6, whoops, your knight is suddenly trapped in the center of the board. Okay, c4. That's the one idea. So I don't have to worry about c3 and c4. Okay, this b4 is secured for once and all. So game continues with c5, then I bring my bishop to d3. And by the way, I wanted to mention this actually, this simple, relatively simple ideas, right? Knight d2, knight d4, and then a3 to land the bishop on d3. May not seem much, but if you are thinking that, oh man, these games were so easy, this is what goes into the easy games really. So you have to set it up first. So I did spend quite some time actually in the openings in this tournament, okay, to make sure that I am setting it up for the fun positions, as much as I could at least. So it's in the little details, it's in the small details like that. If you think that complex things, how to make them look simple. Now a3, so he continues with c5. Now bishop lands on this diagonal on d3, long-awaited diagonal. And it goes to c6, and now I kick this only active, so relatively active piece from the center, knight b6, and now queen to e2. Point of queen e2 is I'm preparing for the battery here, knight g5, or even like g3, h5, queen e4, h4, bishop g5, long castle, and it's party time. All right. Now my opponent, I could tell, was getting frustrated. So because there are no constructive plans for black, so he lashed out with f5. Now I'm happy to en passant there and then double off my bishop with the tempo. And after rook f7, another precise move here is g4 to make sure that black does not play f5. And if they insist on f5 here, I can play rook g1 check. And I actually saw this nice trick, so to say. I can play basically knight g5 there, and if black tries to out trick me here with the pin, I go long castle. Right, let's give this another double exclamation mark. Okay, and if they take there, that's a checkmate. So I finish the development. You can't touch my queen because that's a checkmate, and if not, then look at all my pieces and look at that poor king. So this is a game over pretty much. So he plays e5 instead. Now I have time to castle here, bring the rook on this diagonal. You can't touch this guy because you can touch this. You can take it there because there will be rook g1 and a pin. So king goes to h8 and rook h to g1. Now I'm preparing for some kind of opening up the files here, g5 namely. So he decides to play queen c7. Most likely queen on the king side would help a little more. But anyways, it's still a very difficult situation already. But this would be another good moment where you can stop the video and see if you want to figure out what is the most forcing and immediate way to launch an attack here with white. Okay, so we want to open up the g file, right? With g5, pawn to f5, then we go g6, and we're not worried about giving up this knight because once it captures on e4, this would be another good exercise actually to see the mate. Okay, calculate all the variations, and if you did that, good job. Knight to g5, attacking the rook, and most importantly, opening up the avenue for the queen here on the h file. Okay, so after rook h7, bishop g. So the point is, if you take on g5, I can take back, and then there will be check and mate on f6. Okay, queen h5 and bishop f6 is going to mate. So he played rook h7 out of frustration and disappointment, and that allows another very aesthetically pleasing finish here, bishop to g7 check, and when you take it, queen h5 check, and when king goes to g8, another check on h7, pinning the rook and forcing the checkmate pretty much on the next move. Okay, with queen to h8. So he resigned here, and that put me in the clear first after drawing the last game. Okay, so that was my first classical tournament win in a minute. Okay, and I'm very happy about it, even though I was the first seed by quite a bit of a rating margin there. Going undefeated still feels good. Win is a win. Okay, I'm gonna take that W, and $1,000, actually $1,200 for 2 days of work. I'll take it. All right, that is all that I have for today. I hope you found some of these games instructive. Join my Skool group. Okay, it is completely free. I will have the link in the description, and if you're not following and subscribed, then what are we doing? Okay, cheers. I'll see you in the next one.